Every argument you keep having, every financial ceiling you keep hitting, every relationship that ends the same way, you're looking at a reflection. Your outer world is a printout of your inner architecture. And by the end of this, you'll understand exactly how to read that printout and change what it says. The Hermetic tradition is one of the oldest philosophical lineages on Earth. Its core text, the Kybalion, lays out 7 universal laws. The second of these, the Law of Correspondence, states something that sounds simple until you actually live it. As above, so below, as within, so without. Your external reality corresponds to your internal state with surgical precision. Most people hear that and think it means positive thinking creates good outcomes. That's the bumper sticker version. The actual principle cuts deeper. It means everything you perceive outside yourself is filtered, shaped, and in many cases generated by what's happening inside you. Your beliefs act as a lens. And a lens doesn't just magnify, it determines what you can see at all. Think about the last time you were anxious about money. Remember how every conversation seemed to circle back to expenses? How you'd notice price tags you normally ignore? The world didn't suddenly become more expensive overnight. Your internal filter shifted and the mirror updated accordingly. You were walking through the same city, the same life, but seeing a different world. Because the world you see is always the world you are. Neville Goddard built his entire teaching around this mechanism. He called it the law of assumption. Whatever you assume to be true, you will encounter evidence for. Assume people are untrustworthy and watch how many liars you attract. Assume opportunities are scarce and marvel at how doors keep closing. The assumption comes first. Always the evidence follows, like a shadow follows a body. But understanding the mirror is only half the work. The harder question is, what do you do when the reflection shows you something ugly? Here's where most spiritual seekers get stuck. They see their outer circumstances as problems to fix. A bad job, a toxic relationship, a body they're uncomfortable in. So they rearrange the furniture. They leave the relationship, switch careers, start a new diet. And 6 months later, the same patterns resurface. Wearing different clothes, the relationship has a new face, but the same dynamic. The job has a new title, but the same frustration. They change the mirror instead of changing the face looking into it. Rumi wrote about this 800 years ago. He described the human heart as a guest house where every emotion arrives as a visitor. Joy, shame, resentment, longing, each one carrying information. The temptation is to slam the door on the uncomfortable guests, to distract yourself, medicate, scroll, stay busy. Anything to avoid sitting with what the mirror is actually showing you. The discipline of correspondence requires the opposite. You sit with the reflection. You ask what belief is generating this pattern. You trace the thread backward from the circumstance to the conviction that created it. A woman I know spent years struggling financially. She tried every strategy, budgets, side hustles, investment courses. Her income would rise, then something would happen. A car repair, a medical bill, an unexpected expense that ate the surplus. Every time, like clockwork. When she finally examined her inner landscape, she found a belief installed in childhood. Money is dangerous. Her father had lost everything in a business deal when she was 9. She watched her family fracture over it. Somewhere deep in her nervous system, she decided that having money meant having something to lose. So her subconscious kept engineering situations to get rid of it. The mirror was functioning perfectly. The reflection was faithful. She just needed to change what she was projecting. That kind of excavation takes courage. You're essentially admitting that you've been the author of circumstances you spent years blaming on bad luck, other people, or the universe. The ego hates this. It would rather be a victim of random chaos than the architect of its own suffering. Yet here's the liberating side of that same coin. If you built the pattern, you can unbuild it. If your inner world created the outer reflection, then shifting the inner world shifts everything. Goddard prescribed a specific practice for this. He called it living in the end. You identify the state you want to occupy: abundance, love, health, creative freedom, and you begin feeling it as already real. You fall asleep in that feeling. You carry it through your day. You don't wait for evidence. You generate the feeling first and let the mirror catch up. This sounds easy on paper. In practice, it's one of the hardest disciplines you'll ever attempt. Because your current circumstances will scream at you. Your bank account will contradict your assumption of wealth. Your empty apartment will argue against your assumption of love. Every piece of external evidence will try to pull you back into the old state. And this is precisely the test. The Hermetic texts describe this tension as the gap between the seen and the unseen. The material world moves slowly. It's dense. It takes time for inner shifts to crystallize into outer form. A sculptor doesn't strike the marble once and see a statue. There are hundreds of strikes where the stone looks like nothing. Then suddenly, features emerge. The correspondence was always working. The form was always taking shape. You just couldn't see it yet. So what does a daily practice of correspondence actually look like? Start with observation. For 1 week, treat every recurring frustration as a message. Your coworker who dismisses your ideas. Where are you dismissing yourself? The friend who keeps cancelling plans. Where have you been abandoning your own commitments? The mirror doesn't lie, but it speaks in metaphor. Learning its language takes patience. Next, identify the root assumption. Write it down. Be specific. I believe I have to struggle to earn love. I believe rest is laziness. I believe I'm fundamentally behind. These beliefs are usually quiet. They don't announce themselves. They operate like background software, invisible until you go looking for the code. Then begin the real work. Revision. Goddard's revision technique asks you to replay events from your day, but change the ending. That dismissive conversation, replay it with your coworker listening intently. The rejection email, replay it as an acceptance. You're doing this in vivid sensory detail, feeling the revised version as real. Over time, this rewrites the assumption. And when the assumption shifts, the mirror has no choice but to follow. Critics would say this is magical thinking dressed in philosophical language. That's a fair challenge, and it deserves a direct answer. The Hermetic tradition has never claimed you can sit on a couch, visualize a mansion, and wake up with new keys. Correspondence is a law of alignment, meaning your inner state determines which actions feel natural, which opportunities you notice, which risks you're willing to take. A person who genuinely assumes abundance makes financial decisions from clarity rather than panic. Someone who feels worthy of love stops tolerating treatment that confirms the opposite. The inner shift changes behavior. Changed behavior changes outcomes. The mechanism is psychological before it's metaphysical, and it works regardless of which framework you prefer. The ancient Hermetic phrase goes further than most people realize. As above, so below refers to the macrocosm and microcosm. The idea that the same patterns operating in the cosmos operate in the individual. Stars collapse and reform. So do identities. Seasons cycle through death and renewal. So does the inner life. You are going through a winter right now in some area of your existence. The correspondence tells you this. Winter is part of the design. The collapse isn't failure, it's composting. Something is breaking down so something else can grow. And this is where the principle becomes truly personal. Whatever you're struggling with right now, the relationship, the career, the health, the money, it exists in your outer world because a version of it exists in your inner world. That's the uncomfortable truth. It's also the most empowering truth you'll ever encounter, because it means you are never at the mercy of circumstance. You are always at the source. The mirror is waiting. It has always been waiting. The only question is what you're ready to